Well, good afternoon. It is my pleasure to welcome you all here to this very special event hosted by the World Zionist Organisation, the Zionist Federation of Australia and Zionism Victoria, and in particular to our guests of honour, the Honourable Daniel Andrews, the recipient of the Jerusalem Prize, is here with his wife Catherine and children Noah, Grace and Joseph, and to Jeanette Searle, the recipient of the Julie Herzl Award, who is here tonight with John, of course, and her daughter Ellie and her mother Louise. Welcome. Let me start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land and paying my respect to their elders, past, present and emerging. We have several other distinguished guests here tonight that I'd like to welcome. The Federal Attorney-General, the Honourable Mark Dreyfus, Michelle Amanda Raja, member for Higgins, Josh Burns, the member for Macnamara, the Deputy Leader of the Liberal Party, David Southwick, the Israeli Ambassador, His Excellency Amir Maimon, and of course my co-host for tonight, together with Yossi Goldfarb, Gusti Braverman, the Chair of the World Zionist Organisation's Department for Diaspora Activities. I'm sure that it's not lost on anyone here tonight that we gather to recognise a true and constant friend of the Australian Jewish community and the State of Israel, at a time when such friendships are more important and more precious than ever before. It was exactly 5 years ago that I had the honour of bestowing the last Jerusalem Prize to the then sitting Prime Minister, the Honourable Scott Morrison. And I had just returned at the time from Israel, from leading a bipartisan delegation together with former Prime Minister John Howard, former Deputy Prime Minister Wayne Swan, as well as ministers from both sides of politics. And I used the opportunity 5 years ago to reflect on some experiences in that visit. And I didn't realise that then the sort of historic nature of going on that sort of bipartisan delegation at the time. Perhaps I do now. But the first impression was the bond between Australia and Israel was unshakable, founded on Australia's consistent and principled support for Israel on the global stage. Support that had been nurtured by successive governments of both political persuasions. My other reflection was how lucky we were to be Jewish Australians. With anti-Semitism at the time on the rise in the United States and in Europe, our government was rock solid in calling out anti-Semitism wherever and whenever it reared its ugly head, often under wicked disguise, just as its predecessors had done so. And the most popular of those disguises in 2019, but so much more so today, was the demonisation of the only Jewish state, which I think makes the context of this evening's presentation both unique and profound. Unique because it's fair to say that the world has changed in the last year. Existential threats made to Israel and her security over many years crystallised on the 7th of October, in a conflict which then reproduced itself again and again all around the world, including here in Australia, threatening Jewish Australians and our way of life. And profound as we reflect on the importance and the power of leadership. To me, it's clear. There is a common thread between the threats to the Jewish community of Australia and the existential threats faced by the State of Israel. And it's not just because for each their spark lit on the 7th of October. It's because many of those who challenge our social cohesion do so by challenging Israel's right to exist, seeking to erase it and the history of the Jewish people. And there are no easy answers for our political leaders to these challenges. But the response from our elected leaders must be rooted in principle. And it deeply pains me to say it, But for the first time, certainly during my lifetime, but probably since the establishment of the State of Israel, and in the very moment that both Israel and Australia faces real challenges, that there is deep concern within the Jewish community, that the enduring bipartisan support for Israel and zero tolerance towards anti-Semitism is at risk. Clearly, with the Greens, they have chosen to spread monstrous falsehoods about the State of Israel and Jewish Australians. They have succumbed to extreme ideological forces on the left, whose conspiracies are shared by the far right. This must not be the fate of our politics. But there is only one thing that can protect the way we do democracy as a multicultural society against these sophisticated challenges. It's called leadership. And there may be some Victorians in the room tonight who didn't agree with every policy of the Andrews government. It's possible. But I can tell you that everyone here tonight, and the overwhelming majority of the Jewish community, is united in recognising and honouring him as a model for leadership. A leader with an unfailing moral compass, akin to that of the past recipients of this prestigious award: Bob Hawke, Julia Gillard, John Howard, and Scott Morrison. As Premier, Daniel understood the power of his office. And he also understood that bipartisanship is a rare and precious commodity, not something that a party or a politician can really move in and out of depending on political convenience. And sadly, in recent months, we've also seen what has happened to our social cohesion, where anti-Semitism has flourished in this grey zone of innuendo, dog whistling, and code. And this is why the position and rhetoric of our elected representatives must be clear-cut. Which brings me back to my original point about the historical significance of the Jerusalem Prize this year. Daniel Andrews is living proof that clear, consistent, and principled leadership in this space is eminently possible. Now, before we move to the formalities and we hear a little bit more about Daniel's achievements, I'd like to just take a moment to acknowledge Jeanette Searle, who I am really delighted that we are able to celebrate her and her award tonight for her service to the Jewish community and to the State of Israel. Now, Jeanette's contributions over decades, which I had the honour of witnessing and working closely with her for 5, not decades, years, they have been an integral part of the strength and resilience of our community. And it really is fitting, and it's a privilege that we can celebrate her tonight alongside Daniel. Jeanette has embodied the values of service, of dedication and quiet leadership that the Julie Herzl Award represents. And we're going to hear more about that a little bit later on. But for now, I would like to invite the Ambassador, His Excellency Amir Maimon, there you are, to say a few words.